welcome to Broken Entertainment, and I am absolutely floored by Jason Scott Campbell. And I'll get into this article in a minute, but this is the artist for Marvel who drew a famous comic cover of Spider-Man with Mary Jane on the cover of it. She looks very nice, and of course, somebody on Twitter had to go, "There, I fixed your art. Look, I took out the boobies." And everybody reacted in the way they probably should have, which is to laugh. 'Cause, come on, man. You can't have anything anymore. Oh no, a woman was drawn on a comic book cover 10 years ago, and she's attractive. Dear God. So, the Puritan police came out and they wrung their hands a lot. And, oh my gosh. And he posted back with, "Don't fix my art, weirdos." I mean, that's paraphrasing, but, that's more or less the point. And Comicsgate rallied around him, and they said, "Hey, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this cover. It's not pornographic. She just looks nice, and it's okay for women to look nice." And the guy that had posted originally fixing the art in giant air quotes said that women don't look like this, and it's like, well, it's comic art, so everybody's gonna be a little bit more of whatever they look like than they normally would in real life, right? Nobody has shoulders like Superman, other than like hardcore bodybuilder types. It happens on both sides. It's because comics are a visual art form, and it's also because our heroes in comics are idealized forms of human bodies, right? Look at Superman. Look at Batman. Look at Wonder Woman. Not hard to understand. But, for psychopaths on Twitter, it's hard to understand. Because you're not supposed to have attractive people anymore. Well, you're not supposed to have attractive women anymore. They haven't decided that there's a problem with attractive men yet. But I'm sure they'll get around to it. So, then he came out and he made some comments that pissed off Comicsgate. Well, let's go ahead. So, J. Scott Campbell apologizes for a statement describing Comicsgate as alt-right hate group. For the record, I don't think I've ever seen a mainstream comic book artist apologize to Comicsgate for anything. So, this is the cover. By the way, just so you can look at it and decide for yourself if it needed to be fixed. Incidentally, when they fixed that, they didn't fix Spider-Man's butt over here, right? Just what I'm saying. This wrong, this fine. Anyway, after denouncing the entirety of Comicsgate as an alt-right hate group, veteran comic book artist J. Scott Campbell has issued an apology for painting the entire group with the same brush, explaining that his initial statement was inspired by how some individuals who were making hateful and bigoted attacks were doing so in the name of Comicsgate. Now, they're obviously not a hate group. It's abundantly apparent. What they are is people who are concerned about the direction comics have taken. A lot of them are former comics artists themselves who have gone into business for themselves. The biggest example, of course, is Ethan Van Sciver, who used to work for DC. And most of them are just upset, mad, what have you, with the way the extremists that have taken over the comic book industry have turned things. And they will rightfully and frequently call out the ridiculousness that crops up as a result. The unprofessionalism, the constant attacks from random comic artists on Twitter who feel the need to post 170,000 times a day to tell you how horrible you are for being this, that, and the other thing. So, yeah, they're offended. But they have the right to be. They're not a hate group. There's a very diverse number of people that identify as Comicsgate of all sorts of different races and ethnicities, and so on and so forth, and all those fun things we like to talk about. They come from different sides of the political spectrum. They're just people concerned about comics. And rightfully so. Look at the shape the industry's in. And a lot of them have gone from pointing this stuff out to taking the next step and saying, fine, I'm going to make comics of my own. And we've gotten some awesome indie comics out of that. Several days after he refuted a Tumblr artist, it's always a Tumblr artist, fix of this amazing Spider-Man cover 601, artwork featuring Mary Jane Watson with a counter critique of his own in his now infamous The Fixes In thread, Campbell took to his various social media accounts to issue another statement on the matter, this time directed towards those involved in the discourse surrounding his posts. After noting that it had been brought to my attention that there are some bigoted, hateful, and completely over-the-line comments buried in the My Fixes In thread, and explaining that some of the comments may still be found under his posts, due to him being physically unable to monitor every comment thread, Campbell appeared to draw a connection between the alleged bigotry and the Comicsgate movement. Now, I don't know what was said in this thread. I do know that in any group, there are far-out extremists. I've seen people who identify with Comicsgate say some terrible things. But you'll see that with anyone. And it's not the majority. Also, it's the internet. You have keyboard warriors. Let me make this clear as I possibly can. I am completely and totally against any bigoted comments, anti-LGBT, anti-trans, hate speech of any kind, threats of any of that sort. I have no affiliation with Comicsgate. I'm not alt-right. I'm not anti-woman or endorse any fringe groups that push hate, period. The post and commentary in question, whichever side you may fall on the topic, was intended to be playful, perhaps a bit snarky in tone, but absolutely not meant to inspire hate. This comes from being uninformed on what he's talking about, because you get this a lot on social media. Our Comicsgate is alt-right and they're a hate group. Because what happens when you label a group a hate group? Well, immediately people who know nothing about what you're talking about are going to go, oh, I don't want to side with those people. Oh my gosh. And then they can take this to the next level with social media accounts and YouTube and so on, and try to get people deplatformed by saying they're part of a hate group. No one that I have seen on YouTube deserves to be filed under that category. And the anti-woman thing is perhaps the most ridiculous comment, because there's women in Comicsgate. Oh no. And to see this kind of comment, you see it all the time, and you're just like, whatever. You know. They label them hate group because they don't like them, they don't like their opinions, and if they can get them deplatformed, they will. So what they do is they run to their whatever social media account they're talking about, and they go, this person's in a hate group, this person's in a hate group, because do you know what everybody has that is a platform? They have a section in their terms of use that says they will suspend or delete accounts for being members of a hate group. It's just a ploy. Everybody in the discussion knows no, they're not a hate group. That's not the important thing. And you'll see some comic covers as we go through. These are all done by J. Scott Campbell, I believe. He continued, some insinuated that by referring to the person as non-binary Finn, that I was somehow mocking the term. I wasn't. It was the only name that I had to work with, and even settled on NBF to try and make that a non-issue. I assume this was the person's username. And of course, they had to put that stuff in there, because you can't just put your name. Gotta have your name be a political statement from the beginning. Because it wasn't the issue, he declared art fixing, artist disrespect, art community bullying, and more importantly, art censorship was a discussion. Fixing somebody's art, again in air quotes, in this way is all of those things. Okay. And it's one thing if you do it like comically, but the way they're doing it, where you're saying this guy is bad for having drawn this, this is wrong, so I fixed it, and this is what it should look like. That's. I've seen the fixed cover, by the way. Halfway reasonable use of Photoshop, I guess. Just stupid. I don't believe art censorship is a left or right thing, further explained Campbell. In my observations, both sides use it as a tool and as a strategy for their individual means and agendas. But at my core, as a creative individual and an artist, let me state, I'm fundamentally against censorship and being told in general what I can and cannot draw by any group, political or otherwise. Just because I'm at odds with a lot of the extreme viewpoints and attempts at censorship of my art from the left doesn't mean I'm in alignment with the alt-right and hate speech either. I know we were led to believe that the current landscape is an either or. You're either with us or you're against us. It's black or white. It's not. This isn't the presidential election. There can be and there are many shades of gray in regards to all kinds of different topics. As an artist in this modern world, I find myself feeling I'm somewhere in the middle, and I feel a lot of us are feeling that way these days. And yeah. I mean, he's saying a lot of things here that make sense. I just want to point that out. That this is a very balanced approach, other than the part where he said, in not so many words, that Comicsgate is a hate group. These comments make a lot of sense. This is what a lot of us have been saying. And it's the first time I can think of, in a long time anyway, that I've seen this from a mainstream professional comic book artist. Or comic book professional of any sort. After facing an understandable outpouring of backlash from Comicsgate supporters, many of whom cordially attempted to clear up Campbell's misconceptions about the group, the artist followed up his initial statement with a tweet stating, "Who knew that clarifying that you are against hate speech, making threats, bigotry, etc. would get so many upset and drop you, but hey, that's our modern society, I stand by what I stated." A lot of people threw support behind you and your freedom to create, replied YouTuber Heels versus Babyface to Campbell, tending to explain to the artist's reasoning behind the backlash. Then they got labeled alt-right or anti-this or that, and you likely got pressured into your statement by the very people who have torn mainstream comics apart. I like your work a lot, but you bit the hand that feeds. If you want to see something funny, watch Heels versus Babyface review any episode of Batwoman. Campbell in turn dismissed the YouTuber's explanation, telling him, "If you self-identify with hate speech, then I'm sorry we got your feelings hurt. For all you know, I could have also been shaming the hate speech that I saw from the left too. Nothing about drawing sexy ladies identified me with either political stance." Well, at least he knows what he does. This particular discourse went on for some time, with Campbell engaging in various discussions on the subject with a number of individuals who consider themselves affiliated with Comicsgate in some way, shape, or form. Eventually, 2 days after his initial statement, Campbell posted yet another lengthy statement to his social media, this time offering a clarification to his statement regarding the entirety of the Comicsgate movement. This is why I don't like Twitter. Other than it's just all political bullcrap all the time. You say a thing, and then you got to clear up the thing, and then you got to clear up the clear up to the clear up of the thing, and it's just ridiculous. Like, I get it. People from Comicsgate were upset. I get why. It happens to them all the time. But it's just so annoying. In every instance, you can't just say a thing and be done. No, it's Twitter. You gotta say a thing, and then this person's like, and then you gotta clear up what you said, and then these people come in and say, well, actually, we're not like that at all. And you go, oh shoot, now I gotta clear up a thing, and it's pretty soon he'll clear up the clear up that was clearing up the clear up that cleared up. You know, you see it all the time, or they just delete everything and pretend it never happened. I've taken the time to hear out several individuals who felt I painted them in a poor light when I made my statement about the divisive and heated rhetoric hidden within my message threads on Instagram and Twitter this past week. Some clarification that I feel is important, he added. What I was stating earlier is that I am not comfortable being implicated or included into a group. I understand that. Any group without consent, regardless of the group. Campbell didn't explain. The reason I specifically referred to this group, Comicsgate, is because it was the only specific group that kept coming up by name. Honestly, from what I've read and seen in documentaries about Gamergate and that whole fiasco, anything with Gate in it probably gets an instant recoil from me. I don't know much about Gamergate, so I'll let that go. Some individuals who are making hateful and bigoted attacks for doing so in the name of Comicsgate. He then claimed it is important to also state, I encountered some very toxic and hateful things being said from the other side as well. Gee, what a shock. Hence my earlier comments about feeling more pushed to the middle of these two extreme viewpoints about art. And well, next stated, I stand by what I said. I don't tolerate any sort of hate speech, bigotry, racism, woman hate, blah, 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 blah. And I will always push back on any association with individuals who act this way. However, this is what floors me. If individual members of this Comicsgate community adamantly insist that's not what they stand for, I feel I should give these folks the benefit of the doubt and take them at their word and not paint the entire group with the same brush. Holy cow! Nobody that I can think of has ever said this. This is a real apology. This is a real, hey, I maybe overstepped what I should have said. I believe from this alone, more than anything else he has said, that he really is in the middle on this stuff. Because he's willing to listen to the other side. And having listened to the other side, he's willing to say, okay, maybe I misspoke. Where do you see that now? I mean, holy cow. You certainly don't see it on TV. Where all the politicians are telling you how horrible the other side is. You don't see it on Twitter. Hell, you don't really see it on YouTube. This is honorable. This is a good thing. More people should be like this. And this is the kind of thing that makes me want to support your work. Because I don't want politics. But I also don't want people that I have seen just be concerned about comics be called horrible names because it's a useful tool. And he says as much. He spot on says it earlier in the article. This is the opinion of somebody who really is in the middle. And I think a lot of us probably feel this way. Like you're just surrounded by screaming voices on both sides. And you can't go anywhere without something being ridiculous and over the top and extreme. And, oh, you can't associate with this, those people are bad. You can't associate with that, those people are bad. You can't do this, that's bad. You can't do this, that's bad. You need this and that to be able to do this and that. It's just overwhelming. And it makes people feel like things are a lot worse than they are. But if you go and you put the internet down and you go outside into the real world, you don't see that. You see a lot of normal people doing a lot of normal things. And they've turned away in droves from extremism. You'll never hear that on TV, but I'll tell you now. People are turning away in huge numbers. And it's very easy to pinpoint the numbers. I can show you, I'm not going to in this video, but I can show you the specifics that show the average person is saying, no, screw it. Look at movies. Look at the movies that are popular and doing well. And then look at the movies that have failed. All the failed movies have something in common. It's not bad writing. I mean, it's there, but that's not what it is, because some movies with bad writing are doing very well right now. It's the political agenda and the extremism and the eye-roll inducing cringe. And you can see the same thing, I think, with news and with comics and everything that's got all this crap in it, everybody's just saying, enough! I can't get away from you anymore. That's a lot of what this channel is about, is just feeling like you can't get away from this crap. Everywhere you turn, it's there. How many times do you turn on TV and you're like, oh, I'm going to watch this TV show, and you're like, never mind. Because what's it about? Well, police are bad. This person is bad. This type of people is bad. This race is bad. This gender is bad. Gotta wear your mask. Gotta go out and follow all these things. Gotta do this and that and the other thing, or you're a horrible person. Look, in a world where we're all stuck wearing masks and trying to talk to people from 10 feet away and standing behind glass all the time, and you've got politicians talking about, well, maybe you shouldn't be able to go anywhere without a card identifying you as this. We don't want that in our entertainment. Period. Here is a guy, comic book professional. If you ask me, looking at his covers, he does a damn good job. He certainly has a style, and he's not afraid to show it, but he's a good artist, and he's finally saying the quiet part. He's finally saying, what if we just talked? Wow. What if we turned away from the extremism? And a lot of us have done that. A lot of people have just finally said enough. Movie industry's down. Comic book industry's down. Television is down. Streaming services not doing as well as they probably should be. People are going outside. Marine industry is up. ATV industry is up. RV industry is up. So you can go outside and the trees don't call you a racist. And the trees don't go, oh my God, what are you doing? You can't do that. Because you can go outside and you can get away. So to see one of these guys say, you know what? I overstepped. I've listened. I've had conversation. Absolutely incredible. Totally blew me away. I never thought in a million years, when I clicked on this article, I'm like, yeah, right. Gonna be some, lame half-ass. No. Awesome. They insist they're not a hive, as they put it, which probably is why this messaging is very confusing to someone in my position who really doesn't keep up with all that noise. He went on to note several have interacted with me very respectfully, and we openly engage about our mutual concern about art censorship and exercising our artists' freedoms of expression. They've been very civil, reasonable, and occasionally even delightful. He further praised these discussions with Comicsgate members by noting, these are important and valuable discussions we should all be having more openly and more thoughtfully without it devolving into tribalism and absolutes. Bingo. Done. Nailed on the head. Drop the microphone. Turn around, walk out the door. You got it. So these folks, I apologize for whatever grief or embarrassment I may have caused you with my earlier word jumble and wide brush. I hope these individuals who feel I unfairly grouped them into a smaller group of bad actors will accept my apology. It's not a good feeling being accused of statements and actions you haven't committed and aren't in your heart. I can certainly attest to that. I'm sure I'll be vilified by some on both sides of this debate for clarifying myself and actually talking to individuals of differing viewpoints, but I can only be true to my own values and sense of right and wrong, continue to treat others as I want to be treated. I will continue to stand up for my values, but I will try even harder to listen, learn, and try to bring us together rather than push us further apart. Well said. I'm going to leave it at that. I think that deserves to stand on its own. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments down below. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell for future video notifications, and I will see you next time.